All right, internet. So what you're about to see here is a new type of video. So this is a different format than I usually do because oftentimes many of you ask, can you please actually show more detail of how you actually code up things with vibe coding when you're using your process and building out applications? So that's exactly what I wanted to do here today. So what you're going to see here today is me working through an application. We're not going to start at the beginning. We're not going to finish the application. We're actually going to see some of the different types of things I deal with. So the errors, the bugs, the confusions, the researching, things like that. So I hope you enjoy this type of content. It's quite long, so I don't expect everybody to watch the entire thing. But with that being said, I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you on the other side. So what we're going to build today is a door hardware PDF extractor. So this specific app is going to be for subcontractors that work on different types of contracting deals for doors. Now, what I've done so far, and actually like kind of the end state here, is we're going to have a process where somebody logs in and they upload their PDF. So step one is to upload the PDF. After they've uploaded the PDF, then we're going to parse out the markdown from that PDF. We'll then extract that markdown from that, extract the data from the markdown and convert that to a CSV format, but that's eventually going to be shown into a table format that's easily understandable. And there's one of two directions they can go after this. Either they can upload this to, we'll do up and then down. And then the upload is going to be into Supabase, where they can actually easily get access to this data later on and search it, or they can download it into a CSV and put it into their own database into different items that they're interested in. So this is kind of the overall flow of how we're going to build this. Some of the things that we've done thus far is I've gone through the process that I've discussed in previous videos, where in the first one, we'll actually create a spec. And the spec is created through an interview that I usually have with O3 Mini High. We'll do O3 Mini High. So that's basically where I do an interview with O3 Mini High. We're asking me a series of questions about the application, what it should look like, what it should be made of, and the user experience. Then from that, we get a spec. Once we've gotten the spec, we'll copy and paste that into O1, or actually this time I've tried 2.5 Pro from Gemini, and it'll create us a blueprint from that spec. And the difference between this and this is that the spec is the what, and the blueprint is the how. So what we're building is here, how we're going to build it is here. So we get the blueprint from, in this case, we got it from 2.5 Pro. Instead of, usually I use O1, but I wanted to try this out and see how it works. And then once we have the blueprint, then we'll ask the same model that already has this context in its context window to then write a to-do list in a markdown file. And we do this because this is kind of the roadmap. This is the roadmap for our AI to follow. So when it builds this iteratively, it's going to refer back to the roadmap to ensure that it's following the correct steps and checking off the boxes as it makes progress. So we've already done this. We already have this information, and this is what we're trying to build. Hope that makes sense. So now we can get to the actual building of stuff. And this video could be 30 minutes. It could be 12 hours. I don't know. But you will when you click on it because you'll see the timestamp. So like I said, this is we've already made some progress. So we already have somewhat of a UI here where we're showing basically you can select a PDF. So when I select this, do that, it's going to try to upload it and we're hitting an error. So this is not good. We need to fix this. And I think I've already asked previously to get this fixed. And let's see if that actually fixed it. And also some context. So we're using, we shouldn't be using auto, we should be using Cloud 3.7. So Cursor gets you sometimes. They'll try to you use the cheaper model because that probably saves some money and also all those good things. But we are resistant. And some context here before we actually move forward. So this, for those who have not used Cursor, this here is the window we're going to spend most of our time in. This is the chat window. So this is us talking to the AI in this case, and usually in most cases, it's going to be Cloud 3.7 thinking. And also I found, interestingly, that 3.5 sometimes actually does better than 3.7 because we're giving it such specific instructions from Gemini that I'll show you in a second, that it tends to be more obedient in what specifically you want it to do. And 3.7 tends to overthink things and is a little bit excessive. So that's the chat window. This here is the terminal. So this is where we'll actually do a lot of the running stuff, and you can see we have our front end running here right now. This is the code, so we'll spend some time in here looking at things and making edits to the system prompt and other things. And then here is the file format. So this is where all the files sit and how they're structured. And this sometimes we need to focus on because they misplace files in different locations when they shouldn't, the AI, when I say they. So we need to have them readjust things or readjust them ourselves. So that's some context as to what we're looking at here and how we'll spend most of our time. Okie dokie. Oh, that was me. It was me testing this. All right, resume. So I was having an issue with that error. And up here, I initially asked it, okay, we're still getting the same error, blah, 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 blah. And then I basically give it a web thing to go search the web and see if they can figure out what the issue is and why it's happening. So it came back to us. It said, based on your error message, the issue is version mismatch. So this is something that happens quite often with AI. Is sometimes that it'll reference its own knowledge base, which is kind of cut off after a certain point. So it'll give you old library versions that isn't necessarily always compatible with some stuff that it adds in. So that can be a bit tricky, especially when you're starting out and initializing the infrastructure for the application itself. So it's saying the most reliable solution is to explicitly specify the work URL. I don't believe you, but I wonder if it can take you out to this. Very cool. So these are as of 2024, these comments. What is this? Leave the worker version, think. Okay. So it found some at least reasonably useful references. It's interesting because I think they just changed this. So this here, oh, worker, blah, blah, blah. So we had this, and then it changed it again back to what it used to be, I think. It used to be, actually it wasn't that, it was different, okay. But they've changed it multiple times without actually testing anything, which never a good sign, internet. All right, so it's super confident that it's correct, and my guess is that it's not, but who knows. It's taking a while to load, so that could be a good sign. Or a bad sign. Let's share this with the AI. Also, I realized that my head for you guys is going to be over top of this the entire time, so I'm going to move me over here. All right. Hopefully you can see that better now. It's like we're running into another error. Oh wait, we got an error. Okay. So it looks like we got the same error, or a different error maybe. Like we're actually in this case, let me show you something I would do. So this chat is relatively long, so I'm gonna start a new chat. And then I'm gonna do this. So right now I'm having a current error. I'll paste it below. We ran into this multiple times, and it seems to be coming down to a versioning thing. So there might be an incorrect version that we're trying to implement based off of an old API or an old package. So I want you to research online to figure out exactly what's the optimal package and structure of the code that we should use for this specific error in our use case. Go ahead and review the spec and the blueprint of what we're trying to achieve, and then identify the root cause without actually providing a solution. And then after we've figured out that root cause, then we can actually work on solutions. So what I just used there is called Super Whisper. So it's me basically narrating everything I want to happen, and it puts it into there for me, so I don't have to type it out. So I'll do this. I'll put in the error, which is here, and I will also said I'd share the spec and blueprint. So I'm giving all this information to the AI because I wanted to have as much context as possible to understand what we're trying to build and also the error we're running into, and then some previous historical issues. Another thing I should have done or have done in the past is I've actually had the previous AI write a summary of the problem in more detail and then copy and paste that into this next chat. And also I noticed with cursor is that the wait time, especially if you've exceeded your 500 requests like I always do, is a lot longer. And I think they're timing it. I think they like you have to wait like 30 seconds to a minute every single time, maybe a little less, which is quite kind of wild. But 3.5 Sonnet is actually faster. So we'll let 3.7 try to fix it right now. And if it can't, we actually might pass it to the UI. So actually, let me try something. I want to share this with you. Where are we? Okay. Door hardware. What is this? Gemini? All right, so we're gonna try to do this thing called Yeek. So Yeek is something I've discussed in the past as well, which is helping basically it serializes the entire code base into a flat file. So shoot, I have two. Let me delete the one that I don't want. So we want to keep 7F. Okay, so if I cat this out, you'll see basically the entire code base has been placed into a single txt file. Now this is interesting because we can actually throw this into a model without a system prompt that's in the back end, and that could fudge things up. So I'm actually going to upload this to 3.7 Sonnet. Oh no, conversation's over. All right, I lied. I'm going to upload this to 2.5 Pro because its context window is infinite. Let's do this. Copy this in. And we'll delete that. And we'll see what it comes up with. Gives me a warning. What's this about? Not open links. That's fine. All right. Because if it gives me a reasonable solution, then we can just give this to 3.5. Because this is actually something I've been doing, and I promised you I'd show you something else. So let me go to that, wherever that is. Here, okay. So this is where the blueprint is and the associated prompts. So currently I think we're working through prompt 3. And in here, we have a bunch of stuff. Let me go to the top. So at the very top is the boilerplate prompt that we always put in. And then below that is the spec that we got from ChatGPT 03 Mini High. Copy and paste it all in there, and then ask it to create me a blueprint. So it then goes through and creates a blueprint at a high level. So it gives you a high level blueprint at the top. So this is kind of an overall view of like how we're going to build this. And then it basically iterates on a development plan that's in more detail every single iteration. So it'll go through multiple rounds of detail. So here we have iteration 1, and it goes into detail of how we're going to build this out per chunk. And it looks like I only did one iteration here. So then after that, after the iteration, it then gives you the prompt implementation. So it gives you a specific prompt for each chunk. So you can copy and paste this prompt into Cursor and have it build it for you. So we have these detailed prompts for each one of the chunks above for the things we need to build. And I actually down here also ask it to create a to-do list. So once you get it, and you can see it has, interestingly, O1 only gives you maybe like 9 to 10 prompts. Oftentimes Gemini gives you a lot more because it's output token length. So down here you can see the output length is 65,000 tokens. That's a lot more than O1. So I don't know if more equals better. We're going to find out because I'm testing this for the first time, building an app. And then also ask it to create a to-do markdown for us to follow. So this is the to-do one, which is also in way more depth when it comes to checkboxes and things that need to be marked off than O1 provides. So we have all of this here, and then I actually had it modify because I didn't want to use the UI it recommended. I wanted to use ShadCN. So it then modified that to include ShadCN to these. So that's where we're working through these prompts instead of the ones above. And we'll see after that explanation how this is going. Okay. So what I want you to do now is, instead of providing me a solution directly inside of this text, I want you to give me a series of prompts with your solution included, of having another AI engineer implement that solution. So you can give me a solution, but bake it into a series of system prompts that we can iteratively build on and fix inside of the code base that another AI engineer has direct access to. So this is another thing that I'll do. So instead of it having given me a direct answer, because the direct answer is nice, But a better answer is actually having the answer baked into a series of system prompts that I can then feed back into Cursor to have Cloud 3.5 actually build out. And we're going to use 3.5 instead of 3.7 because it's faster, because we're not being rate limited, and also it tends to be more obedient, like I said, to smarter models. So let's see what they say the root cause is. So it looks like its response is slightly different from the solution that Gemini provided. They both reference the versioning issue and they both reference this package thing, but I don't think Gemini referenced 3 and 4 in its answer. Whoa. It's interesting how its prompts now are just like code. That's usually not what I want. But so one thing we could do is we could try to implement Gemini instead of 3.7 and pray to the gods that it works. Now, like I said, we're going to try to do this with 3.5. Where is 3.5? Read it out. While it's doing its thing, we're going to come back here and see what the hell it's going to do. So it's interesting how specific this can be, right? And in accordance to what a human would ask the AI to do. And that's why my hope is that 3.5 Sonnet is going to follow it as we want it to. Install this package. Let's see if it's reading its mind. Here we go. Do continue debugging the import this worker from here. I think it's basically the same as installing a package. Not this importing, and that's not the same, but that's all right. We'll accept new. Do it again. It's interesting doing this type of video, you know? I think all those Twitchers, they'd be twitching all day. Must be a taxing gig to talk to yourself and or like a small community for 8 hours straight. That's rough. It's a rough life. Right. We asked it to do a bunch of stuff. Modify this file again. Oh, damn it. I don't want to do that. All right, fine. Read it here because it's easier. All right, configure the worker local path. So it's, all right, it's changing the worker to local instead of global. Continuing debugging. Removed. Modify. Import this and set this to the imported URL. So it added a bunch of debugs. Interesting that you can see this addition here. So it's actually following the rules that I have set in Cursor. So I have a bunch of rules set in our rules section here for the global rules. So you can see I've asked for a code structure, modularity, so ensuring that it doesn't exceed 500 lines, testing reliability, important rules to follow, etc., etc. So it refers back to these before it makes changes. And you can see it refers back to when it does actually make the change. So that's another rule, is always mention when you do use a rule kind of thing. Very meta. All right, so we're just gonna keep going. Internet, we're gonna roll the dice. Pull the lottery, what is it? Not the lottery stick. What's the thing? You pull it in the casino. What is it? Yeah, kind of glad that I don't know what it is. Because if I did, then that would just mean that I know a lot about gambling. What's the thing when you pull the stick in Las Vegas? Like when you pull the stick and you win money. Mm. Slot machine. That's what it's called. Actually, that was a fun knowledge. Let's go back to that. Whenever you pull, the reel spins, and if the line's up right, your money in the prize. The classic vibes, six vibes, and often called one arm bandit. Nice. All right, so we're gonna get back to what we were talking about. All right, so it's update this config. So what was the question we asked it? Modify, remove the custom build function and that tries to rename the worker file. Okay, so we go here. It is removing something, which I hope that it's the custom build thingy. tags build. Okay, yeah, cool. It gives a very, it's amazing how specific it is, right? So it's like, okay, remove this very specific thing. And then we went in there and we removed the very specific thing. Like magic. All right, so we'll accept that. Update this file, removing this. All right, now we've done that, which tab was that in? This one. So, the custom, okay. We've done that, so now we'll go to prompt 4, which looks to be like the last prompt. And as you'll see, every time I do this, I'm starting a new fresh conversation. Part of the reason is Claude 3.5 Sonnet. The context window is smaller, relatively speaking, to other things. So it's best to have it have a fresh conversation each time. It'll give us a better chance of succeeding in a one-shot attempt to apply these changes. All right, so let's look at the task and see what it's asking. So I want you to delete the public worker file and, oh, I did prompt, oops, I did prompt 4 and 5. Are they concatenated together so closely? They are. Wow, they're tiny. Okay, so this one is to delete this file, which is fine. And then this one is to, you apply necessary code, verify the solution. Okay, so test it. Server, if it's running, restart the development server. Open the application, upload the PDF, confirm that it's working. Okay. So we deleted the file as it asked, and now it's asking us to rerun the server. So we already have it running here in the terminal, so we can just do Command C and run it again. Now if we go over here, you know, we did all this work, internet, to hopefully fix the issue. And if it's not fixed, then we begin again. Let's do this one. Oh, haha, we did it. Good job, internet. All right, so this is obviously not ideal the way that it looks, but let me explain what this would look like if we successfully build the way we want it to look. All right, so this ideally will have two boxes. We'll have one box here, which ideally fits to the window in an adaptive way. So we'll have another box here. It's probably like yay big. And the thing here is this should be a lot bigger, obviously, so we need to expand this out to actually have it fit the window, and also the text needs to be zoomable so we can actually see what's in here. But the idea of this first screen is once we've uploaded this information here, we're going to want to run the parsing process to pull this PDF, convert this to a markdown file. So here we would have the markdown. It would actually view and compare. And ideally, there's a synchronized scrolling as well. So when I scroll in one, the other one scrolls down as well. So we can scroll simultaneously to do the comparison between the two to check to see how good is the parsing information from the PDF to the markdown. So that is the goal that we're trying to achieve right now. But made progress. At least we can see the PDF. And I count that as a win because you got to take them when you can get them. All right, cool. So it's working as expected. Good job. Congratulations. We love you. Let's go back to this. All right, so it's basically saying we should have a component like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you another thing that I do when I'm messing around with UI stuff is I take a load of screenshots because luckily these models can perceive screenshots pretty effectively. So we'll drop that there. So we're building an application, and right now we've gotten to the point where we've achieved most of the things we wanted to do for a specific subset of the application, which is displaying the PDF once we've uploaded it. But when you look at the UI, you'll see that the PDF itself inside of the window that's provided is actually quite small. And I want this window to be adaptive. So it should be able to expand and contract based off of the size of the overall window it's inside of. So if it's inside of a large monitor for a computer, it should be bigger. If it's inside of a tablet, smaller. If it's inside of a phone, even smaller. So make sure you're using best practices from the specific UI components that we're using from ShadCN and Tailwind CSS, and make sure that those are being accurately shown in the UI. And we need to improve this. So go ahead and look online to see best practices, and also check the code base to ensure we can kind of uncover what needs to be fixed. All right, so again, dictation, because it's faster to talk than it is to type. And then I'm actually going to use 3.7 thinking here because we're asking it to do a bit more. We're asking it to kind of um, be more broad in the scope that it's going to achieve a certain task or understand a certain problem. Like I said, when I'm using Gemini as the thinker and I'm doing the execution with Claude 3.5, you can outsource the thinking to a smarter model, have them give very specific prompts, and then have the less smart model do the execution inside of IDE, which, as we can see from this experience in this previous example, worked pretty well. And this may take a little while, which is not ideal. I wonder, I don't know if can Gemini take images too? You can ask the same question to Gemini and see what it says. Better yet, we can copy and paste this stuff in there. But if we are going to copy and paste, we'll have to upload the new code base, which means we'd have to eek it up again. So we're going to go back into our folder. We're going to yeek this again. Then we need to go back. Actually, I wonder if I could just do this. Do cd this. All right, we want to delete the one that starts with a 7. And then we want to add that to the other one. All right, so I've updated that. So we have the new code base in there. And we want to actually switch on grounding here. Oops. I need to copy this. Copy. All right. So I'm going to switch on grounding here so it actually hopefully does search. And I'm going to double tap this and search online. And hopefully this works. I mean, if it weren't multimodal, I'd be surprised. So the crazy thing is I've uploaded 2 code bases to this, complete code bases, and we're not even halfway through the amount of token count that can be input on a single pass with a conversation. But with Claude 3.7, it basically just, shat to bed after I gave it 1 code base. So we'll see what the solution comes up with. As you can see, 3.7 is still thinking because we're being throttled by Cursor, which is fair, you got to pay your bills. And I'm running your bills up pretty drastically every time I use it. Oh, is it doing prompts again? You're so beautiful, Gemini. Aren't you too? Let's see what is going on. All right. So fixed height container. So inside of this, which has a fixed height applied to this prevents the container from actually adapting to the size. Okay. A multi-page scroll. The current implementation renders all the pages. Scalable container functional, which makes individual pages appear small, especially in this responsive with attempt. Parent constraints. All right, so make the PDF viewer component container flexible and height responsive to the parent's width and improve the viewing experience, likely by showing 1 page at a time. Actually, I don't like this. I want it to show all pages. So, actually, let me ask. So when you say show 1 page at a time, I want to make sure that the entirety of the PDF is shown. It can be only showing 1 page at a time, but I don't want to have to push next. I want to be able to actually scroll, and that scroll should be simultaneous across both the PDF and the markdown that's parsed out, so I can do a comparison between the 2 files. So if you are going to have it 1 page at a time, make sure that the 1 page at a time is scrollable in the sense that I can just scroll down and go to the next page instead of having to press next. This is just a confirmation. Is that what you're suggesting? All right. That's a beefy prompt. Wait, is that multiple prompts? Am I crazy, internet? This is prompt 2, right? But if we go down here, there's prompt 6. We skipped a lot of prompts in between. Losing its ability to count. based on the common pattern there. Da, 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 da. We should disregard the pagination log inside of prompt 2. All right, so I'm just going to say rewrite the prompts to achieve what we're trying to do. Hmm. Sure, let's do that. I wonder if I do shift. Can I do shift enter? No. How do you? Yes. Okay. Command enter. All right, so we have that running, and this has come up with a solution already. So let's see what's going on here. So it's reviewed a bunch of code. So it said a similar thing. PDF view container is constrained with a fixed maximum. PDF viewer is taking advantage of tailwind responsive. All right, so let's maybe accept this for now. See what it looks like, and if we don't like it, we will revert back and use the other one. So this looks better. I'm not gonna lie, this looks better. I do like this. Now, my question is, when we add a second viewing window, does it actually bump it over so I can see that too? Okay, so later in prompt 10, it's going to add that second piece in, so that's fine. We'll do that later then. If you don't want to do it now, we can do it later. So internet, I'm going to say this is a pass. Congratulations. You have successfully done what I wanted you to do. So now we want to go to the to-dos, and we want to make sure that we've marked off what's done. So conditionally display file name, install handle, da da da. All right, so go ahead and check off what's been completed in the. This is why I don't type so much internet, because I'm a bit of OCD when it comes to this. And check off been completed in the to-dos. Be targeted and minimal. So I've added a bit of nuance here. So I've said to be targeted and minimal when it updates the to-dos. And also you can see I'm asking it to update the to-dos instead of me updating it directly. I will sometimes come back in here and like make sure that it's accurate and checked off accurately. But the reason I'm doing that is that sometimes the models can get a little handsy with the to-dos and they'll start to check off a whole bunch of stuff or delete a whole bunch of stuff it shouldn't. We want to avoid that as much as possible. And we can actually just come back here and see which to-do correlates to which to-do list or item. Actually, it could be a new, I should actually add that to this, where it's like, if prompt completed, then check off these to-dos. So there's a direct one for one. Huh. And also, I don't think we need to wait that long. So just do 3.5. All right. I agree with you. 3.5's on it. This is exactly what we've finished based off of what we've worked on. So we'll accept that, do a fresh conversation, and begin the journey to the back end. And we're going to go with 3.5 sonnet as well with this. It might be a little risky because there are multiple things that it needs to do within each one of these prompts. But my hope is that it's specific enough for the model not to freak out. All right. So I'm not a big fan of how it's structured this, because basically the entirety of the front end is under the parent folder, and then the back end is in its own separate folder. Usually you have front and back end folders. And to reorganize this could cause some damage to the application. Maybe it wouldn't, maybe it will, but we'll build as is now. And if it bites us in the ass later, we will regret it and fix it. Interesting, pip freeze. Never heard of that before. Let's see what that is. It says, I mean, oh no, what's going on, OpenAI? Bruh. I like my nephew. Bruh. All right, this command is from the terminal. Are you looking? It outputs a list of all the installed packages in your current environment along with the exact versions. That's pretty dope. So if you've already installed a bunch of stuff, you don't have to like type it out. You can just do a pip freeze, and it basically takes everything that's already installed in your environment and puts it in the requirements txt for somebody else to repurpose. That's pretty cool. I respect that. All right, so it says that it's set up. So we will go in here and test it. All right, that didn't work. So maybe it's not what I thought it would be. There we go. Cool. So that means it's running. Did it change anything to our front end? I don't think we connected anything, so it shouldn't matter. Okay. All right. So we've done that. So what we want to do now is we'll say, okay, update. As you can see, I'm quite repetitive with the importance of being minimal and targeted when it updates the to-dos. And it's usually easier if it actually does what it should in the first attempt. So when it comes to the to-dos, it just marks off what it did, and it doesn't have to be any more convoluted than that. All right, so we're gonna go back to our prompts, and we'll start with prompt 5. So what is this goal task? Let's create an AI endpoint to receive the PDF file uploads. So when I upload the PDF file, it should go to an endpoint. So it should create a temporary directory and store it there when it's uploaded. Function, generate unique file name, find a full path, read the contents, it'll turn a JSON response. Cool. So it's basically going to store the file that I upload once I'm done. All right. So we set up the Python virtual environment. Yeah, created this, implemented this. All right, cool. I don't think we did anything else besides that. So we'll say yes. Do new conversation as always. And then we will paste that in. And then sometimes what I'll do here is, and actually I'll show you. So in this case, like we're using Fast API for the installation or for the grabbing of the file. So I'll usually at the docs sometimes as well to ensure that the model itself is using the most up-to-date docs and packages and APIs and all that stuff associated to the thing we're building with. So it gets the instructions, and then it kind of correlates the instructions with the documentation it can read through, and then it hopefully builds out something that's more updated and isn't necessarily gonna bug out when I try to test it out. So when it uses asynchronous stuff, I do sometimes get concerned, especially when I'm using models. I don't think it'll be an issue here because this is strictly just Python, and it's all like deterministic things that we're doing. But when using asynchronous calls with different models, I've run into a lot of errors in the past. Um, for some reason, doing things synchronously tends to be more effective, and I think it's because there's a lot of API rate limits for a lot of these models that people use for the API keys they have. So unless you have access to a higher tier for the API, then using it synchronously, so you send a call, wait for response, send a call, wait for response, instead of doing asynchronously where you send like 10 calls, wait for the responses to come back, and then chronologically like align them. That then I found that I can get rate limited pretty quickly. So that's it could be a true thing, or it could be just me going crazy. But yeah. So it's added the upload file endpoint with the function associated, which is cool. That's what we wanted it to do. It's going to create a temporary file for those uploads to go when it's done. All right. So theoretically, if this worked, if I upload a file, it should drop into that folder. And let's test it out. Also, I want to see if I can just drop things. So that would be nice. If I just drop this here, does it do anything? No, we need to add that functionality. Or maybe I just need to drop it into it. Like, I mean, ideally we have a drop zone that's easier to find. All right, so that doesn't work. So we just have to select it. That should be pretty straightforward to add. All right, so we've uploaded it. File is here. You can see it. It's great. Now, Ideally, how do we test this? Oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, would you like me to test? Yes, I would like you to test. Yes, please test. I've tried. All right, so I've tried to test. Let's see what it can do. Interesting thing. So first checking to see if we're in the right directory. So this is a rule that I have as well, because oftentimes these AI models, they'll start to build stuff and add files that shouldn't exist in certain places, and they duplicate a lot of the effort, and that then convolutes all of the code that's supposed to be calling certain files, and it makes life a lot harder. So if you have a rule in your global rule section that basically has it ensure that it's in the right folder at all times, it'll save you a lot of pain and frustration. So it looks like their test worked because you can see the post went to that specific point, and if I go here, you can see the test files here, which is interesting because that means that this is not connected to the backend. Because when I upload this, nothing happens. But maybe that's because I've not read the prompts, and maybe the prompt tells me that we're just creating this first and then we're going to connect it later. Yeah. Silly? See? Internet. If you read the prompts, you would actually not have to go through the frustration I just did because right here, connect the front end file, upload to the backend endpoint. Boom. Basic. All right. So let's delete this. And also, we want to fix the UI. So let's have a quick fix here. Hopefully, this is a quick fix. I'll just refresh. Do this. So I would like the drop zone to be slightly bigger, and I also would like the drop zone to be interactive because right now when I try to drop a file into the UI, it's not actually doing anything. It's just opening up a new tab and showing me the PDF in Chrome. So let's make sure the drop zone functionality is set up, and it's also aesthetically pleasing and fits in a good section and is responsive like everything else. So make sure that when you make this addition, you follow the code rules and aesthetics that we have currently to ensure you're not breaking any libraries or any setups we already have. And I should probably ask it to do the to-dos, but I'm going to mark them upload. I'm going to start updating these because I know that we've done some of this stuff. So we've created this folder, we've implemented it, we've did that, saved asynchronously. I don't know if the JSON was returned. I don't see in the terminal if a JSON was returned. But maybe it's the file name itself actually, which I deleted, so I don't know. Perfect. So we'll just save that for now. Okay, so it says that it's improved the UI. So let's go and see if it has. Okay, cool. This looks better. So when we click it, that's beautiful. Close that. And if we drop a file in, it loads it. Cool. So as you can see, oh shoot, whoops. You drag and drop UI is a pretty straightforward thing to do, which is great. All right, let's update the to-dos with our progress. Okay, so we've updated the to-dos. I've already marked some of these, but I think it marked everything else that is still that it did, which is great. All right, so we'll accept that. I'm pretty satisfied right now, Internet. I'm pretty satisfied. We're making more progress than I thought we would. So we're gonna keep going because why not? So we've done this. So we're gonna go here, and we are going to go back to the beginning to see are we doing. So I'm going back to the top to ask myself, are we using any libraries, packages, or anything else that I need to add to ensure that we're using the most up-to-date information. And so here you can see it has a previous step was this, connect the front end with the back end. Seems pretty straightforward. I don't think there's much adding that's needed there, but I could be completely wrong, and we will find out. Right, so you can see it's referring back to the rules. So it's making sure that things are structured well and there's modularity associated, meaning that the components are focused and modular. This is actually a pretty important rule that I've recently added. Reason being is that sometimes these models, they'll write massive files. So at one point in the past, in a previous iteration of this app, the main.py file that I had I think it was maybe 3,000 or 4,000 lines of code. And that can be extremely overwhelming, both for a human and also the AI. So if we say you have to limit your number of lines to 500 lines per file, sure, the complexity might increase because of the number of connections, but they're more focused and they have certain purposes, which I'm assuming will be easier for the AI to kind of figure out where the errors are and also how to fix them, which that's what humans do. So I'm assuming AIs can take a similar approach. So hopefully I didn't shoot myself in the foot here because it's using a specific package from shadcn called toast, and I should have added it here. Use it interest. This is sooner instead of recommended. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna say check the docs just in case, because I don't wanna kind of mess this up, and maybe it should be using toast and not whatever sonar is, but maybe it doesn't matter. Oh wait, see, use this component instead. See, if you just read the documents, internet, you won't run into these errors. You can see that this toast component is now deprecated, so we should use this instead. And that's directly from shadcn. So just got to read the docs. Got to read the docs, internet. Okay, so it looks like it's done. So to test, we need to upload a file and see what happens. All right, so let's go back to our UI, refresh. Let's do a drag and drop because we have it now, which is exciting. All right, error found. Oh no, upload failed. So are we getting an error somewhere in our back end or front end? No, perfect. That's not great or useful. So let's do this. Do quickly a screenshot. Okay, so some context here. So I've asked for the root cause without a fix, and the reason I've done that is oftentimes when you ask AI to fix an error, especially if it's unknown as to what the bug is, because there's like very little kind of logs that have been printed out for me to actually feed back to the AI for it to assess what the issue is. It just has a little pop up in the screen. In that case, what we want to do is we want to actually ask it to give us the root cause and assess the code base first before it actually gives a fix. Oftentimes what AI will do is it'll immediately jump to the solution, make an assumption, and that assumption's wrong, and then it'll fall into a loop. It's kind of like the spiral of nightmares where you run into an error with an AI and you keep on getting the same error and over, even though it's confident thinking that it solved the problem. And oftentimes it hasn't. So we'll do this probably once or twice. If it is unable to fix the error, I'll then ask it to print more, add more print statements throughout the code so we can actually get more logs, which I probably should have asked in the first time. And we'll let it see if it can fix it. And if it can't, then we'll add that back in and we'll go from there. Actually, we do have some information here, internet. So if we inspect the page, I'm going to stop and reject whatever it's telling me because I don't want it. I don't trust it. It looks like we get an error. Here's some info from the console and the web browser. All right. Hopefully this context gives it what it needs to fix it. If not, it'll have to find out the solution elsewhere. All right, so it looks like it has come to a solution, and it really comes down to the fact that there is a different port that it looks like it's running on. So it's running on this port, and this is apparently a common issue with this CIT browser. Okay, got it. So the backend is running on port 8000. So if we go to the backend here, you can see that it's running on port 8000 here, and the front end's running on this port. So when you have these different ports and they're trying to connect to each other, there is a proper CORS like misconfiguration. So yeah, go ahead and apply most optimal solution. All right, I'm gonna trust that it can solve this issue because it's a pretty common issue that you run into when you're building these types of apps. And actually, I wonder if I think it's just gonna be blank screen, right? Yeah, cool. And if we actually go to /upload, okay, non-existent. All right, so for some reason 3.5 is quite slow as well now, which isn't great. But okay, based on the documentation of the best practices, to solve this, we're setting up a proxy. So if we go here, there's a proxy that they've set up where the target is port 8000. So I'm wondering if they're going to proxy from the front end to the back end and it's going to make it look like it's the same port. For all, cuts to forward here. All right. Let's see if this works. It does. Nice. Good job. 3.5 Sonnet. Proud of you. And also like the animation here. It's pretty sexy, you know? Nice little drop down. I'm not hating it. All right, cool. That works. All right, great. Works. Update. Cool. All right. We're making so much progress right now. Let's do this one next. Which if we just did this one, right? Yeah. Actually, let me check. Big question here is, are we adding it here? Okay, we are, I think. Let's retest this one more time. Refresh. Do this one. Oh, that was weird. I think it's because we're making changes in the back. Do it again. All right. Okay. So, oops. Very cool. It's uploading it into the temp directory as well. We'll probably want to add some sort of something that deletes those after a few seconds or so. All right, so we've updated this. Modify the front end, handle this. Da, da, da. So it's only marked 3, and it repeated them. Why are they repeated 2.3s? That might be an issue on my end that I did something wrong. But 2.4, yeah, they're duplicated. That's weird. Did this do the same thing? We need to see, okay, modify access store, upload, file upload. So what are we doing here? So we connect to the back end. Right. Let's just, follow the process. Trust that AI has your best at heart. Sometimes it's fast. Sometimes it's ridiculously slow internet. So somewhat faster now, which is great. All right, so it says it's done. Asking, do we want to test? So the question is, what did it really change? It said it added an upload endpoint where I can serve the files. Just basically wanted to restart the backend. We don't need to do that. I don't think. We'll see. So, okay, upload this, retrieving it. That's because I deleted the test. I deleted the test file. About that. So API/upload PDF, and then it gives back. Pop this out. If you do pop out terminal, it pops it on the terminal so you can see it. So success true. It gives a file ID and the file name associated to that. Now, file hardware is the main saving. So it says it's working. And remove the file, which I love. It's always nice when they clean up files that aren't needed. So I'm wondering, when I upload something here, it says that it's posted to the upload area and it's saved here, which is great. But the question is, how is this correlated to the upload PDF endpoint? Because this is saying that it should store it and then give you a true. Go back and look at the code for a second. So, changes did we make previously? We added this here. Save the PDF file by its ID. Ah, so when you upload a PDF file, it does some stuff in the back end that's not showing. But you can see the title here is C976E052 dash whatever, whatever. That's a specific unique ID that's generated for each file that's uploaded and then saved in the temporary folder. So that's what this new endpoint does, is it gives it a unique ID. Okay, I think I understand. One thing we can try, I think, is actually do this. So in the prompt that we gave it for prompt 7, it talks about going to this endpoint. I'm wondering if we go to this endpoint and take one of these file names. So we'll copy that file name, drop it there. And that's what it does. See? Read the code, internet, read the code. So what it's doing is basically storing all these files in a way where you can retrieve them by basically putting in the unique ID. So if I put in this unique ID for that file endpoint, so instead of this, we do API/PDF, this unique ID, it retrieves the PDF. Cool. Right. I'm glad that we're somewhat understanding how the hell this thing works. All right. So it was supposed to update to the to-do list. Did it do that? Cool. All right. Now our next one is for the back end to serve the PDF via this to the front end, which we've just tested. So that's what we did. And we want to modify the front end to request and display the PDF from the backend URL instead of the local file object. Okay. So basically it wants to do that automatically. So we will give it this and see if there's anything that we should have added. We didn't. Cool. All right. We're making progress, internet. Does it feel good? Feel good when you're building something and it actually works as expected? Looks like it's done-ish. So we've updated this file based off the previous changes here. And in here, what they do. So instead of pointing it to a file, we pointed it to the URL. And then added some debug statements, added back to the URL here. All right, so let's see if this is actually going to do what it thinks it's going to do. All right, upload. So it uploaded successfully. It's showing this. Now the question is, what's going on in the back end here? So get PDF, it looks like it works. Looks like it works. Because if we look at previous iterations where we've pulled this information back, let me go back further maybe. Yeah, every time we did a get in the past, I think it just showed upload http.1. We go back a bit further. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can see each one of the posts in the past, it would say upload PDF http 1.1, and it would be pulling it locally from our directory. But now it's pulling it from, when you do a post, it's getting it from that specific ID and responding back with the actual PDF. I think that works. Pages. I'm just gonna let's test. Have it test it to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, so basically it's telling me to test it myself, which I did. So we're going to chalk that up as it works. Now, one thing I want to say is that you might think to yourself like, oh, you're making such minor progress. Like you're like all these steps you're taking are like really tiny and it's taking you a long time just to do such a silly thing of actually updating the UI and having an ability to upload a PDF and show where it came from. I agree. This is taking longer than expected. But this is what you have to do when you're building something that you have like a specific vision in mind, and over time this will become more and more complex. And it's important that we take small steps, because if we do too much at once, we're going to have no idea how the code actually works and how everything is connected. And then when errors occur, it's going to make everything very painful and very hard for us to actually unscrew the thing that we screwed. So it's important to take micro steps like this. And also, luckily, 2.5 Pro from Gemini allows you to do so, because it has such a large context output window that I can actually print out so many prompts that allows you to actually iterate gradually over time and build, instead of trying to do everything at once, and trying to build it within like 2 or 3 prompts. All right, so this was this prompt. So now we're going to do llama parse. All right, this is where things are going to get tricky. So I've done this a few times, and we're going to ensure that it's actually using the updated llama parse documentation. So we'll say make sure you're using the most up-to-date llama parse docs. And I tried to add the llama parse docs in here, because sometimes when you add docs in here, so let me show you how to do that. So you go file, no, sorry, cursor settings, and then I think it's under features. There's a docs section where you add a bunch of docs in here, and you can see I have tons. When you try to add llama parse in here, sometimes you get errors like this where indexing failed, and either it failed because there's too many pages, like you can see there's way too many pages here. So if we try to refresh this, it's probably not going to work. Same thing applies to firecrawl. So I have llama index, which is kind of the parent of llama parse, and that is something that's actually not here, which is interesting, because what actually I do have it here. I just added it here, so I'm probably adding it for no reason. Anyways, that's why you can @web. So if you @web and the docs are unavailable, either that you've stored or that there's actually sometimes official docs that are stored in cursor that aren't shown here, that cursor is stored for you previously, so you can just @them and it'll show up. And it's sometimes works, sometimes they don't. That's why I usually do @web now. That's pretty consistently what I do, to ensure that it's actually pulling the updated documentation from the internet associated to this API. And one thing also we can do is we can do this, where where we can just search the API docs this way, and you can want to do one of these, so you can copy and paste this like that, and it's going to then go directly to that URL to fetch that information. So hopefully it's not astronomically slow as it has been for the last like 2 hours. All right, started running finally. So now that it's working, I'm going to accept this. Wanted to look more at the instructions, because there's going to be a point where we're going to have to ensure that we're getting the right API keys and all that stuff. And in that point, I'll probably not show the screen, so I don't necessarily leak my keys. But for the time being, I think that we're good. And I think there's going to be a point where we actually start building out the functionality where it's going to get a little hairy, maybe. So it's important that we pay attention to what it's doing, and don't allow it to break anything too bad. All right, looks like it finished up. So it's written quite a lot of code, which is both can be a good thing, but also a concerning thing, because if it writes too much, then it may go off the rails, but we'll see. So it's written a few files. So we have our core config. We have inside of our services folder that I recently created. We have our llama parse service, which is going to be probably where most of the magic happens. And we need to make sure that when this is set up, it has the right parameters configured, so we're actually using the right service from llama parse. And here it's calling that service. Is that all it's doing, is calling the service? Mark down. Yeah, it looks like it's just calling it. So I think most of the content will be inside of the llama service itself. Okay, so I already have a .env, and it wants me to drop it inside of the backend directory. Maybe I don't have a .env. I could have swore I had one already. All right, well, I can copy it from another project. So internet, I'm gonna cut this out. We'll be back. All right, so I uploaded the .env into the backend folder. It's requested. So also, shoot, I need to check the parameter name. Okay, now I updated this basically. So now it's llama cloud instead of llama parse. Let's see, install requirements. Already in the backend. This is interesting because it deleted a crap ton of packages, and I don't like that, so I'm gonna reject it because I don't trust I don't trust them. All right, so it's good enough the Rails. We're just gonna copy and paste this in there and say, hey, we got an error. We're gonna look at it and see what we think it is. So it looks like it's an import error for some different modules we're trying to import. Oh, we have one L instead of two. Mother of pearl. The smallest things, internet. All right, so it figured out what the issue was. So the issue was basically that the .env file that I dropped in here had a lot of different fields. So it didn't just have Llama, but it had Google's Gemini and also Supabase keys in there. So we fixed that, and the backend is now working. Cool. So if I go here, this should still do what we expect it to do. Oh, is it already sending it? A snap? This is probably not great because when I looked at the information that it gave, I didn't see anything that looked like previous tools that worked. All right, we'll just let it run and see what happens. So another thing with Llama Parse is they are quite expensive, sadly, and also the ability to track their credits is really hard. So you have credits, right? So you get 20,000 per month if you're paid. I think I'm paid, maybe free, I'm not sure. But the ability to track these credits is kind of impossible because you can basically just see it in the UI and you refresh, and sometimes it doesn't refresh. So I think in the API docs you can set up a way to track it, and it spits back the amount of tokens used. Then you have to create a tracking mechanism on your side. Let's see what happened. So file uploaded successfully, but it doesn't present back any markdown. So the question is, does it put it somewhere that I have no idea where it's being placed? Markdown content, join documents. Okay, so it looks like it's processing it, but I have no idea where it's storing it. Unless, it can't be this, right? I don't think it can. Oops. Yeah, so this is just a PDF. Hmm. Okay, well, it's working though. So that's, I mean, we think it's working. But let's say update. The reason I think it's working is if we go to the prompts here, we can see that it's this prompt that we gave it is not necessarily to display the markdown. Call, include the markdown string, handle the errors. Because I think that's the next one, right? Because we need to do a front side by side where it displays the markdown. Because right now it's just processing it in the back end, but not accurately running it through. And then we're gonna have to definitely make some edits to the llama parse config because we need to add a detailed section of how we can actually process this markdown effectively. All right, so I can see that it marked off one of these items, which is to include the extracted markdown into JSON response. I'm asking where it goes, and hopefully it tells me where it goes based off of what it can read in the code. Because I really want to see if anything is actually being extracted effectively. Okay, so let's actually not do that because it's going to start making changes and we don't want to do that. So we're going to go here and we're going to move to the next prompt because I think that prompt is going to be the one that actually helps us display this stuff. And to ensure that we're actually doing this effectively, it's going to use shadcn, so we're going to at again, and then hopefully this builds it accurately. So it created the markdown viewer, created the side-by-side view component, updated this with the side-by-side view component it created, installed some Tailwind typography. So this is could be a bad thing because I didn't at Tailwind CSS, so it might be using outdated stuff, but hopefully not, because it's only just one line. Maybe that's not enough to actually break anything. Let's see what it added. Tailwind CSS typography. Yeah, so Yeah, when I see the at tailwind slash, it's a little nerve-wracking, but we'll see. All right, let's see what happened. Let's see what it looks like. So refresh, upload, and forgot that we're actually processing this. That was way too fast. Okay, so we're definitely not using premium mode, but internet. We have a side by side. And let's actually do a different file. Let's do this one. If I refresh this and look at the credits, you can see it didn't actually go down that much. So it's probably not using premium mode. Because we want to use premium mode. The reason we want to use premium mode is that it is by far way more accurate when it comes to complex PDFs like this. So you can see this one here that we can't zoom into, which actually is a feature we'll need to add, is making sure we're pulling out the data accurately and making sure it's structured effectively in Markdown so we can then extract the data with a Gemini model or a cloud model or whatever else to improve that. Okay, so we have another one that came out, and looking at this initially, so it's like it's super tiny, so it's really hard to see, and we're gonna have to readjust our setup here. Okay, how do I look? How do I look? How do I sound? Internet. All right. So if we do hinges, Hager, passage function, one stop Rockwood. So the accuracy is not too bad right now, actually. We're 11A, 12. So we're getting a lot of this, which is, it's weird that it's so fast. Usually it takes forever. Um, Honestly, I'm not mad. I'm not mad, internet, about this. The way that it's displayed is horrible, and it's hard for us to match these up because especially if we do something that's convoluted, like maybe this is a harder one. All right, so this one's a bit more difficult because the contents in itself are the very top isn't necessarily just a hardware group or a set, so it can be confused by that. And also I can see the simultaneous scrolling isn't occurring, which I'm wondering if that's actually because we've not implemented it yet. Yeah, synchronized scrolling's next, which is fine. Um, so when I look at this, the hardware group number 2 up here. Oh, oh, is that mother of pearl? Why did it do that? It's probably because it's making changes in the back end. Fine, because I asked it to update this do list. It's my fault. Okay, so what it's doing here? So installed, create, user React, add this, create this, modify, render side by side view. Okay, cool. That's correct. All right, so it looks like it's working. The question here is that is it actually using the premium mode? But we'll come to that later. So we can actually just keep on working on the UI for now and get the synchronized scrolling set up. Make sure there's nothing here that's gonna like trip us up. No, I think so. And in the end of the day, the side-by-side view is important for me to validate that the markdown is being extracted effectively. But if I can just do a quick sample test here and look at these markdown files that are kind of convoluted, if they're still being parsed correctly, then that means that the extraction service actually might work good or well without me having to mess around with the UI too much. Because in the end, think this through, internet. In the end, the user is going to have this type of experience. So they really shouldn't have to look at the markdown. We may want to offer it as a kind of a human in the loop situation, because ideally in the end, they should just upload. Once it's uploaded, in the background, the markdown gets pulled. And then from the markdown, we extract the data. And this is what they see. They'll see this. Remember, they'll either upload, they'll either download, depending on their preferences. U, D. And if that's the case, then we really just care about the connection to these two. And this here is more of a human in the loop situation where we want to validate over time to ensure that it's accurately pulling the data, because this extraction process is dependent upon our ability to parse the data. So if this is good and this works, then showing this is kind of a nice to have and not like a needed component, at least not immediately. Okie dokie. So it's simultaneous scrolling. I didn't think it would be that much code needed. So we're going to edit this to accept this. make a similar update to the Markdown viewer so they're both the same. So PDF and Markdown. We'll implement the synchronized scrolling logic. So this is the logic for the side-by-side view. Oh, that's funky. What's going on there? So this is sometimes an issue that I run into as well, where TypeScript or JavaScript in general, just any type of JavaScript or TypeScript, there's a lot of lint errors that need to get auto fixed, and I think I have this enabled in the background, which is useful. But sometimes it can be a hassle because look, you can see it basically like, let me fix this and let me fix that and let me fix this, and it's made like 25 fixes that all of which could be useful or all of which could make things even harder. So if you go under settings, cursor settings, I think it's under beta. No, under beta, general maybe. Yeah, so it's here. So lint errors basically. So it enables the chat agent to iteratively improve on lint errors over time. So this is sometimes useful, sometimes not. We'll see see how it played out this time. So it kind of sucks that we have to wait for so long for this to process each iteration. And also it kind of sucks that we're wasting tokens on this. Oh, wait, did it cache it? Because that was super fast. Because if it cached to internet, that's going to save us tokens. How do we get here? Serving PDF file. So I think it cached it, right? Best. Yeah, I think it cached it because remember we did the storage of the markdown, so it's caching it, saving us tokens, which is great. It's amazing. Synchronized scrolling. This is a bad example. What have we done this one already? It's got to be cached because it's way faster now. All right, cool. So synchronized scrolling. Is it scrolling synchronously? Yes, it is. Perfect. Beautiful. Working as expected. I love it. All right, so the next thing we want to do here is we're going to want to make a UI improvement because the PDF is kind of hard to read. Actually, shoot. Let's first have it update the to-do list. I don't want to distract it with this first. So update. If I create a hotkey for that same specific statement, I'd probably save myself like, 2 seconds every time. When I say that, basically the update the to-dos with progress be minimal and targeted. Da 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 da. Should have some sort of fancy hotkey I can create for that. Okie dokie. Let's make sure this is updated correctly. Cool. I approve. All right, so now we're gonna do this again. Oh shoot, damn it! Every time I can't believe it changes the front from the to-do list update. All right, fine. It's cached though, right? That's what we told ourselves. It's cached, so we're not wasting tokens. And it comes back quickly. Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. Let's go back and refresh and see. Right. Looks like it's going down, but I don't know if that. I think that's probably delayed because there's no way this is being processed as fast. All right, so let's do a screenshot. New chat. And we'll add both of these. Move that. All right. So I want to improve the UI here, specifically the PDF viewer, because on the left-hand side, you can see the PDF viewer, the text itself is quite small, and it's really hard to do a comparison between the PDF and the Markdown when the text is so tiny. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can either add a zoom in feature on the PDF side, or if there's another UI component or UI suggestion you would make to ensure that it's easy for us to actually do a simple comparison between the PDF and the Markdown, doing side by side to ensure that the Markdown that was extracted is accurately representing the PDF itself. Provide me some suggestions based off of the docs that I provided you. And let's not make any fixes. Let's just discuss this first. Okay, so this is another thing that you'll see people do sometimes. which is instead of having the model itself provide fixes immediately, we're first asking it to have a conversation with us. So it's like, review the docs, review the code, let's discuss this and figure out what we should do here first. And the reason we do that is because we don't want it to apply a bunch of fixes that are relevant to what we want and or break stuff. All right, so it's basically going to add a zoom to this and adjust the window as needed. Go ahead and apply the changes, but be targeted. This is another thing, is asking you to be targeted not just for the to-do list, but also the code updates that are outside of the to-do list. Because right now we're going off rail, off stream. Let's talk this through as well. Why not? It's fun. So this is probably not a great place to do it. Maybe I can do. Let me do this. What did I just do? What is this happening? Is this like a thing that I don't know about with this tool? Interactive mode. What is happening? I have no idea what that was. That was creepy. So we're going off road right now, internet. When you go off road, it's dangerous. So we have our to-do list, right? Like we have a roadmap that we're following. And we're following this because we're being guided by Gemini, the genie that saves us. But if we start to go off road here, we want to make sure that when we're going off road, we're being targeted. So when we're being targeted, we're making micro changes when we're asking the AI not to do too many crazy things. And when it does that, it'll bring us back into the road that we want to be on instead of doing something horrible, breaking everything, and we can never return. We can never go back to where we were. So then we have to either revert back to a checkpoint that we know it worked and then try to do this again, or we have to revert back to a checkpoint back here, or we have to restart the entire thing over and hate ourselves for that. So that is why we ask it to be targeted. And actually, I think it made all the changes. Oh, it made some of the changes, not all of it. Because you can see right here, we have a plus minus now. And it works, which is pretty cool. Plus minus, reset. Cool. And then can I do this? Yeah, I can. Cool. And synchronized scrolling still works. Are we still where we should be though? So set 7. Where is set 7? Yeah, it's pretty accurate. So set 7's right here. Set 7's right here. So when we zoom in, the question is, does it impact our ability to show? No, it's not too bad. That works. Except, let's improve the side-by-side view component to make better spacing and resizable. All right, so I've accepted all the changes, and I think, ooh, that's cool. Love that. So we can shrink down the markdown because the PDFs are not really shrinkable. We can make them a bit bigger, and we can do a comparison. So it's kind of diagonal, not perfect, but it's not, it's never going to be perfect. So accept your fix. Thank you, AI. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the Gemini setup for the extraction service. This is yet again a really important step where we at stuff. So we'll do this and then say, make sure you're using most update docs for the Gemini API. The key is already in our .env file. And then we need to make sure that we at web here. And then also I think I have that too. But actually, let me check this. So if you type it out, you can see 215.25. So it's somewhat updated. We'll add both just to cause some chaos. And then we'll go back and see what the hell we're asking it to do in the first place. So you can see it's asking it to create a certain SDK. So my question is like, is this accurate? Hopefully it doesn't contradict itself and get like kind of confused. Now, interestingly here, it's saying to configure the client to use this specific API, even when I told it to use Flash 2.0 instead of 1.5. So this is just Gemini being kind of convoluted in its approach. So we may want to come back here, but maybe not. So maybe it actually, the AI is smarter than I am and can figure out the issue there. And the question is it actually looking at the spec in the blueprint? Because in the spec in the blueprint, I also call out the fact that it needs to pull out certain information. I might have to refer back to those as well. Because you can see that it got this, which is good. Those are the properties we want to pull from each set. But can it actually identify this different types of namings for sets as well? All right, let's create Gemini service. So here it's using 1.5. No, it should be 2.0. So we need to change that. The prompt itself is something that we could probably improve because I have other prompts that work better than this elsewhere. Temperature probably should be 0 instead of 1 because we want it to be deterministic. All right, so a few things we need to change. So we should be using what else do I want to say? There was another thing I brought up to you, internet. So we did, this is an issue. I think that's the primary one. Let's just start with that as the issue. Also, I want to ask, the one that we have, should the temp be set to 0 instead of 0.1? Check. They check the docs. See what are the best practices for this. Oh, don't do that. All right, so it should have just changed the name here. But it didn't. It changed this, but it also deleted a bunch of other shit. Why did it do that? Yes, let me update this. So remove the safety settings as they are not needed for this use case and are handled differently. Kept the generation configuration as this. Okay, cool. Great. Let's see what it says about the temperature. Okay, so it says we should update it to 0 instead of 1 or 0.1. All right. And then the question here is it's using the system prompt for it to understand how to group the JSON, but I don't know if there's actually structured outputs for Gemini. So let me check and see. Question endpoint. So let's actually check and see. Okay, is there a structured output for I? So I think there's a structured output that I can spit out instead of just doing it in the system prompt itself. And also another thing that I wanted to share with you is that the question is like, why am I using Gemini? So I'm using Gemini because I've tried Claude, and Claude is actually quite good. It's almost flawless when it comes to pulling this information out. And Claude 3.5 Haiku actually, so the smaller one. But the issue with that is that even Claude 3.5 Haiku is, I think it's like 5x more expensive than Gemini Flash 2.0 when you look at the output and input token cost. And also Gemini Flash 2.0 tends to be a lot faster as well. So I'm hoping that since Gemini Flash 2.0 is likely quote unquote more intelligent and less expensive, we could have ourselves a good little situation here. All right, so now it's using a response schema instead of the system prompt. I'm assuming it deleted that. Yeah. Okay. So this hopefully works. Probably won't, but we'll give it a try. Okay. All right. So before we test though, actually the question is backend data extraction endpoint. So we've set this up. Write code, process response, attempt to parse the JSON. So the question is like, where is it being presented? Is it being presented anywhere yet? Okay, so I don't think it actually is processing it. We've just set it up. We need to actually go through this step next. And so good at actually pushing enter without actually reading the thing and asking, do we need to change anything? All right. So I think we do. Maybe not. Maybe this is just connecting things. I don't need to worry about adding Gemini. I did add it. I added it internet. At the end, I've added it. So okay. Check the Gemini docs to ensure that we're coding to the right API docs. Okie dokie. So it's starting to add information here. Quest model for Markdown. So extract data. So it's added a new endpoint to the main.py server. Call the Gemini service to start the Markdown extraction. All this has been practice. So the new imports from Pydantic are the base model from the validation, extract data results. All right, so I'm gonna ask if we can actually test. And not just test with like a fake file, but like a real one. Such a tiny thing though. Why would you want to test just this? It's useless. No, I'm gonna say no. Test with a real sample. A proper PDF. I'm gonna test a real thing, not these like these little files that are meaningless. Okay. So what it's done now is it's uploaded a PDF. We've received the markdown from that PDF, which it's so fast. Like it's gotta be cached. Um, so now we can throw that markdown at the extraction endpoint to see if it actually works. Looked like it was expecting a JSON instead of markdown, so that's another thing that we might need to change with Gemini to ensure that it understands that it's going to get a markdown file instead of a JSON file. That's the next thing. You know, we could just move to the next phase and then figure it out there. Showing it here is not going to be easier. Because if we look at this, it's going to create a button to trigger the extraction itself and then display the results in a basic but not editable table, which is fine. Because that means that we can see it actually in the UI instead of playing around with the terminal here and trying to get it to work. I think this is broken because we did the other thing. Let's fix that. Okay, so we updated this, created this. Response handle, create, add process markdown. So it's actually, see it here, it's editing too much, internet. So we need to actually, I mean, we can accept this, but we need to unmark a lot of these. So if I go back up here, like we've not done any of this stuff. So we've not done this. Oops, didn't do that. Not done this. And then play button. We've not done, I think actually 5.3 we may have done. So 13, dated code. I don't trust it. I don't think we have actually. So let's say that we've done this. I know there's a lot of stuff we've not done here, so I'm going to go with that. Now we'll do this new one. Before we push enter, I'm actually going to read this because I think we actually have to add CN and Gemini. So mainly looks like it's UI stuff. So we can just to be safe, I'll do both web and ChatCN. And I'm going to come back here and read more about the prompt. This is something I often do while I'm waiting. So this is working through what it needs to do, and I'll go back and read through what exactly I gave it to make sure I'm not asking it to do things that are contradictory or impossible. Okay. So accept this, run that. What we've done so far is we created added hardware types to this. So the ID, quantity, description, etc. That will then be presented in the UI. Created a data table component that is called to the front end. Where is this at? Here. Control panel component, we created a side-by-side view component. So the question here is, can we actually test this? So, whoa, this looks different. Okay, so this is uploaded. We have our side-by-side scroller, which doesn't really do this because this PDF is really janky. But fine, we'll use it anyways. The reason it's janky is because it's a massive PDF inside of like a really tiny thing, and that actually looks like it's breaking. Oh, interesting. Okay. So if you scroll in too far, it like freaks out. Interesting. All right, we need to fix that actually, real quick. Probably not gonna be real quick. So when I scroll in very far into the PDF viewer for PDFs that have really small text, the axis scrollers, so the horizontal and vertical, are kind of freaking out. So I'm wondering why it's so jittery and how we can fix that so I can scroll in as far as I'd like without the axis freaking out and not allowing me to scroll back and forth to see the text itself. All right, we'll see how this works, and then we will at that because I think that's what it's being used. Okay, so anywho, the reason I didn't want to use this is because the PDF's so janky, but that's all right. We have the text pulled out here, and it's likely incorrect, but it's definitely incorrect because you can see set 1 and 9 are next to each other. This is why we need to use premium mode. But we have process markdown. We have that button available, which is great. So we'll see. Let's try to get this fixed first. All right. It says that it fixed it. So let's see. Cool. It did. So the question is, it doesn't go that far. Oh, shoot. What did I just do there? Whoopsies. Need to basically have the ability to scroll in ridiculously far. So as you can see, my ability to scroll in as far as I can it's maxed. So I get tapped out to a certain distance of scrolling in, or at least zooming in. So you can see the PDF. The text is very small still. So we need to have the ability to zoom in extremely far so we can see the text and make it readable. But also we need to ensure that the simultaneous scrolling still is there. So the previous changes you made seem to remove the simultaneous scrolling. So let's make sure that's available, and or let me know if it's still there and maybe it's adaptive because the PDF isn't scrolled in, so we don't have to scroll. I don't know, you just explained to me what happened to that synchronized scrolling piece that we had previously. Let's also add this. Okay. Okay, so it said I made the fixes. Let's see if it's true. All right, so this is we can go to 500x now. It's interesting because I don't know for you, but for me, it doesn't look like the increase is actually that much better. So I can see that, which is good. And it's interesting that it's putting it all on one page. Huh. I think we're going to do internet is we're going to revert back because it's made a lot of changes since we've gotten to this point. So we'll accept this point here. We'll copy this and we'll restore to this checkpoint before it actually made the changes. We'll open up a new chat. We will do 3-7 thinking because I trust it with harder questions like this. Sure, we want to make sure the synchronized scrolling still works as expected. All right, this might take a while, so I'll be back. Okie dokie. So Cloud 3.7 has made a ton of different changes for the specific ask we had around the expansion and scrolling. So quickly to roll through this, it's quite a lot, so it probably won't work. Actually, the interesting thing with cursor is that sometimes you can, without accepting changes, you can just run through the process, and the changes are kind of implemented in a temporary state, so you can see if it works or not. So right now, it looks like it's not worked. Let's see how far we can go in here. Yeah, so it stopped there. Oh, shyster. Didn't mean to do that. So let's just go back and accept this for now. Let me actually explain what we got here first. So it implemented a new scroll area component file because it noticed that we didn't have this specific scroll area thing from Radix UI, I guess. So it implemented that, then incorporated all of the callouts to that specific new scroll area for all the other components inside the code base. So you can see it added it here as well. But it actually changed a lot of stuff in here. Oh no, it just added a scroll component at the bottom. Need to fix a type error. So it needed to fix a type error here, which is kind of concerning. Oh no, it's the same change. Same file, right? PDF here, yeah, okay, same thing. Let's update this. So updated the side view component as well. So it's basically updating all the different components that refer back to this. And I'm wondering, let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful, see if it works. So I'm just going to restart both the front and the back end, and hopefully that does something magical. Probably won't, but we'll see. And this is probably an edge case, honestly, that I'm playing around with, but it's kind of annoying that it doesn't work, so I want to fix it. So this scrolls, which is cool. I'm fine with that. This whole thing is extended, which is not cool. I'm not fine with that. And also, if we do the pluses, we can only plus, and it doesn't even have a horizontal scroll, I don't think. So I need to fix that too. Open. What's going on here? I wonder if you upload once, it won't upload again. That might be another issue. Oh no, drag and drop worked. Okay, so we need to do some stuff here. So the ability to zoom in is actually capped. So I can only zoom in so far. So when I zoom in, it actually doesn't zoom in as far as I need to. So I need to have a really, really high max level for zoom because some of the files have very tiny text that I need to zoom into. So think 1,000 zoom or something like that. And also the horizontal scroll is non-existent. So when I zoom in really far and I try to scroll horizontally, it doesn't scroll. So I need that horizontal scrolling. And also the PDF viewer on the left-hand side, it looks like it's expanded out completely where it's all the way to the bottom. So it's the whole window on the left-hand side for that specific component is extended all the way to the bottom of the screen, which doesn't look aesthetically pleasing because it's right next to the markdown, which is constrained. So we need to figure out how to a way to aesthetically show that. So I want you to actually look at the docs for the UI components we're using today and in our code base and figure out what best is suited for this use case. And let's actually talk this through without actually solving the problem yet. So don't change anything. Let's just discuss the root cause as to why this is happening and also figure out a solution for it that's more sustainable and effective to what we're trying to achieve. Oops. There we go. Okay, so it's quite a bit, but I think it'll do the job, hopefully. So we're going to at the web and JetCN again. So this is 3.7. Might take some time, so I'll be back. All right, let's see what 3.7 has to say. So visual consistency, horizontal scrolling. All right. So it looked through, gave me a lot of information back. Okay, cool. So root cause, limit of zoom capability. Yes, I agree. Yes. All right, solutions. So allowing for up to 10 to 20x zoom. Yeah, I would say 20, not 10. Let's be ambitious here. Are there trade-offs to using more zoom? Appropriate documents. Okay. Horizontal scrolling supports horizontal scrolling, but we need to explicitly add this. We've not explicitly added it. Okay. Heights. Automatically balancing both. Okay. So it's making different recommendations, discussion points, content size versus container size, scroll area configuration. The document page components are constrained to their containers. Changes. Right. So I'm going to say go ahead. Okay, so I said basically to do that, but don't break anything on the way. And we'll see what it comes up with. Okay, so we have, what do we have here? We have a lot of stuff that it did. It deleted a ton, it changed a lot. So the PDF viewer is basically completely different. Not completely, but pretty drastically different. So let's go look at this. So it added a scroll area and scroll bar, max, min, zoom step. Wonder if we can, so we can change that. All right. So component to ensure the visual consistency. So it changed the side-by-side piece to kind of connect with what it recently made for the vertical scrolling and horizontal scrolling. Right. Let's see. What do we have here? So this is different location, which not great. But let's see. Oh, snap. So looks like we can zoom in all the way here, which is great. Good. Now when I scroll here, I'm not sure. how much I love this. But I guess I can't be too picky because really the horizontal scroll is okay because it's quote unquote in line, but is it really in line? The question. Because set one is here. I guess we could try, let's try with a different file. Let's try with a file that's slightly longer, that's more organized. And it's hopefully cached as well, so we don't have to wait for it to be processed. Okay. Oh, it leaves it as maxed. Ah, okay, we need to reset that. Interesting. So that could be another thing is when you upload a new file, it should automatically reset the setting. Let's see. Let's actually go back a bit. Back. Yeah, so this is this hardware is set one. Set one is kind of close to set one. So set one is here. Set one is here. Set two is here. Set two is here. 3, 4. Let's go a bit further. 14. 14 is a bit off, right? So let's show an example here to the guy. Actually, one thing I'll show you, internet, is one thing I'll do, and annotations sometimes work with these AIs, is we'll make a change here, and we'll right on top of it. So we'll say, okay, here's 14. Yeah. And then 14 is up here. And we'll do a little connector here. Bad connector, so just put it here, I guess, or no, do it like that. All right. So we'll share this with the AI instead of what I just tried to share with it. A bunch of screenshots on here that aren't what we need. Here it is. All right, so do that. So as you can see from the screenshot, there is a bit of a difference between the locations of where the sets sit in the PDF versus the Markdown. So we need to make sure that when we scroll these, they're aligned. So based off of your expertise when it comes to design, would you recommend there be a synchronized scrolling feature where we scroll simultaneously? Or should we have two separate scrollers for each component to ensure that the user can then align these as needed? My guess is maybe having separate may be more useful. What do you think? And also, another thing I realized is that when I upload a new PDF to this, after I've uploaded a previous one, the zoom feature is stuck to where it was previously. So when we upload a new PDF, it should reset to the baseline instead of having the zoom be stuck based off of the previous PDF I've already uploaded. All right. See what the AI gods have to say. But internet, I don't hate this. I kind of want to really push this process mark down to see what happens. But we need to first figure out exactly what the deal is here. Okay, so it gave me its opinion, which is good, instead of actually just changing things immediately. Scrolling as users. So it says synchronous scrolling is valuable. But when you use this, you might want to have independent scrolling. Okay. So add a toggle button, that icon showing the linked or unlinked. That's kind of cool. A cool feature where it gives you both options. And persistence. Yeah, okay. All right. See what magic 3.7 can do. So add internet, I think I'm gonna do one or two more updates here, and then we're gonna call it a day for recording at least. And I'll keep working on it in the dark. But let's see what progress we've made. So we front end trigger component table display. We've actually implemented this but not tested it, so we need to test that before we leave. Backend data extraction endpoint. This. Okay, so we need to test the extraction piece first to see if we succeeded or failed. And then we can worry about the rest later. Okay, so it implemented the PDF reset and also the synchronized scrolling. So didn't really add that much code. I'm surprised. So hopefully this goes expected. All right, so synchronized. This is a synchronized view. So everything is like smushed together. If I unlink it, nothing happens. All right, it was not very eventful. Let's try this again. Let's do this one. if it changed. So this is linked, unlinked. Okay, so we will share that with them. So it looks like the linked versus unlinked doesn't really change anything. So the synchronized scrolling stays the same. So there's a macro scroll bar that scrolls the entire page because the markdown in the PDF, both components are filling up the entire page. There's no container that's holding it and keeping it to a certain height or width. It's just extending across the entire page. And the scroll bar then scrolls across everything. So we need to figure out exactly why that's happening. Also, how do we fix this specific issue and ensure that we have the linking and unlinking working as expected. But the link unlink is pretty cool. Button is misplaced in a weird place, but it's a neat idea. Okay, let's see what it's got going on here. So linking unlinking was the issue. In the code, I can see the toggle button appears, but isn't actually affecting the scrolling behavior. Okay, so that's why I was concerned. I was like, I feel like there's not enough code here for it to actually do anything effective. That's because it actually probably just put out the linking button, but didn't put in the functionality of the linking button doing what it should. So hopefully that updates functionality. Interesting. So it's deleting a bunch from here though. Is that because we moved it to the other file? Yeah, we moved the scroll functionality to the parent. Okay, cool. All right, accept. Let's see. Here we go. All right, those are independent. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so they are independent. That's great. I think what's yeah. So they're just independent. I think yeah. I think we should just have it as independent instead of having it unlink and unlink. Because right now this is it's too much for just a simple use case we're trying to create. So we just want to match them up. So we got set one, set one. Boom, boom. Make sure the scrolling isn't broken. Yeah, and we can just do a side-by-side comparison like this. Like this. All right, set one, doors, set two. Getting the doors too, which is great. That was an issue in the past. Cool. Okie dokie. All right. Let's just remove the link and unlink because it's still not working. And I prefer to have the two separate components have separate scrolling features instead of a synced scrolling together. So let's just remove that code and any associated code for the synchronized scrolling and focus solely on having separate scroll bars for each and ensuring the components are fitting as they should next to each other in an aesthetically pleasing way. Oh, cool. All right, so this will be the last change we'll make here. We'll test the extracted piece, and then if that works, I'm gonna end this recording because this is probably the longest video I've ever made, and maybe ever will make. Who knows? Or maybe someday I'll become a Twitcher. Be twitching all day. All right. Let's see if it cut everything it needed to. So simplify the components by removing the synchronized scrolling. It removed a lot of code. So create a reference for synchronized scrolling. Handle PDF. What is this? Handle PDF scroll. That's a huge amount of code. I hope that that doesn't hurt us. Now let's update the PDF viewer. Simply simplify it without the scroll synchronization feature. All right, let's see. We went from like 200 lines to basically 0 lines. Let's replace this. Do that. All right, and let's test the horizontal. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Shoot. That's the issue here. Like if I accidentally do that. Maybe that is something we need to fix actually, internet. Let me actually make sure I can do this. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. Do this and then refresh. Okay. 2 bugs there. 2 bugs we need to quickly fix. Let me do this. All right. So when I zoom in really far on a PDF in the viewport on the left-hand side of the UI, when I scroll back and forth, when it hits the edge, it automatically goes to the next page. Because if I'm using a trackpad on a Mac, it thinks that I want to go to the next page, but we need to make sure it doesn't do that. So when it hits the edges, make sure it doesn't interpret the trackpad as thinking that we need to go to the next page or whatever trackpad associated feature or behavior is based on that. And then also the upload feature. So when I press upload on the box and I try to upload a file and I then try to upload another file, sometimes it doesn't accept it. So you might need to look into the code around the upload feature to ensure that when I upload a file and I try to upload another file to replace that one, it allows me to do so. So I don't know if that's an issue, but I want you to look at the code and see if there is an issue there. Just assess the code and try to find the root cause for that piece and also fix the other piece I mentioned. So I started a new conversation because the previous conversation, as you know from the back and forth we've had there, is quite beefy. There's a lot of stuff going on. So we want to make sure that we're not necessarily overwhelming the model with too much context that's irrelevant to what we're trying to achieve. All right, let's see what it came back with. Examine both issues. All right, based on the code review, I identified the solutions for both. So the PDF viewer pagination issue and default horizontal scroll. Then issue. So fix the PDF pagination issue. So pagination is referring to me going to the next page. So prevent Mac trackpad gestures. So is it just for Macs that it's going to fix? Cool. And now let's fix the file upload issue. Use effect. So reset the file input when uploaded completes. So it's going to reset after something is uploaded. Okay. All right, let's accept. See how it goes. All right, so this is still separate. It's good. We zoom in. We can still zoom in super duper far. If I scroll over, it still does next. Mother effer. Damn it. All right, it's fine. Let's see how this works. Cool. So what if I do this over stop? I think maybe it's because like it stops and that's fine. I don't know what the issue is there, but we'll let it be for now. All right, cool. Let's do process markdown. What does that do? Nothing. It absolutely does nothing. Okay, are we getting an errors at least? Backend. Extract data. Failed to extract value. Structured data error during extraction. Failed to extract value string. I'm wondering if it's just because we haven't done the next step yet. Yeah, we haven't done this one yet. Have we done internet? Have we done this yet? I don't remember. We're gonna have to go back in time. Endpoint down. Do that. So PDF extractor. Add a button to trigger data extraction and display the results. So we did implement that. Okay. So we're having an error here and we need to fix it. So I'm asking what's going on. Any idea what's going on? And as you can see, I'm using 3.7 thinking because we're doing harder tasks. So we're trying to solve problems and things like that. And if I continue to get issues and I'm not getting proper fixes, I'll then pass this off to Gemini 2.5 Pro to see if they can help me provide a solution with a series of prompts that we can then pass back to Cursor 3.5 to then incrementally improve. Our to-do list, has this not been saved yet? Right row. Oh, we've not updated this. Sorry, we can update it now. We've done that. We've done this. Non-editable table, yeah, so it's non-editable, render HTML. So we've actually, I'm not gonna say we've done this because we're actually not showing the table. So when I do extract, nothing happens. So that's a fail. Process prompt button. Process markdown button. So the button's there. I'm gonna say that's actually not done, even though we've quote unquote implemented this. But it's not showing. It's not showing as it should. So we're gonna say that as a fail. Okay, so it looks like it just added a bunch of debug statements to see exactly what the issue is. Because there's a call going out, but it expects a list, but it's getting back a string. So let's just accept the fact that it wants to do these debug statements and try to run it again on our side. So let's do this. Let's do upload same file we had previously. Hopefully it's cached. Let me refresh this and see if we're going down. No, we're not moving. Llama parse isn't moving, so that means that maybe it's not being moved. All right, so we've done that a few times, and it's still giving it back the same type of information. So let's let it keep doing what it's doing. So confident that it fixed the issue, but I don't think it did. So we've restarted that. Try again. Still getting errors. Okay. So we're still getting errors, and it seems like nothing has changed. So what I want you to do is I want you to write a system prompt for another AI engineer to pick up where you've dropped off and give them nuance associated to the problem we're running into in the overall project itself. They'll have access to the entire code base, so don't worry about that. All right, so we're going to actually not do that. Oh, shyster. Whoops. I need to add this here. Oh, please don't tell me. Okay, cool. Damn it. Internet sometimes is annoying. So we're having the same error. So what I want you to do is write a system prompt for another AI engineer to pick up where you've dropped off, and I will pass it over to them to fix. So don't bias their solution. Just give them context to the problem and nuance associated, and some context to the project itself. They'll have access to the code base, so don't worry about that. And yeah. So it's going to do that, and we are going to do another eek. And we're going to CD into that. We're going to then pass this off to Gemini because Claude's not doing great. That's okay. So we need to go here. This. We're going to open up a new prompt. We're going to upload codebase. And then we will eventually send back the system prompt. Also, I'm going to share the errors too. So let's actually just copy and paste this out. And then we'll say errors from server and terminal. Cool. And whenever this decides to finish, we will send it. All right, so it's giving me a system prompt, project context, current issue, etc. Technical details, code structure. So the investigative notes is sometimes you don't want to share that, but we will share it because it could bias Gemini. But let's see what it does. Oh shoot, wait, that's fine. I'll let it come to a solution, and then afterwards I'll come out and give me system prompts. But while it's doing that, we'll come back here, start a new conversation, change this to 3.5 sonnet, and remove that from the context. All right, so it's giving us a response. Root cause is somewhere in the process chain, the code that expects the string value to receive the Python list. Instead, it's getting a call to a string method instead of a list. So it's saying, where is it? Where is upper at? Why pre-validation didn't work. Gemini's output most likely scenario that Gemini, despite the prompt schema, is occasionally returning a list or a field. Interesting. So it gave us the entire file back. You know, internet, we're going to do something risky. We're going to just copy paste this in Gemini service and see what happens. The trick here is that we had this response schema. Did he delete that? No, it's still there. All right, cool. I'm down. All right, let's see what this does. Let's see if it works. Go back to desktop. So it says it's processing, generating content from Gemini. Yo, this works. I will be a happy man. I'm already a happy man. I'll be more excited that this works. Moment of truth, internet. There's a 95% chance it doesn't work. Let's read what they did to see if it actually is exciting or not. The explanation of the changes. So we changed the meme type to explicitly ask for JSON. This is generally more reliable. Okay. Make sure your API plan report. So this could backfire in your face. I don't know if my plan has access to that or not. Log raw response added to the debug section immediately after getting the response. Check for terminal logs if this output isn't if there's any error, so you can copy and paste the logs out, which is good. Robust pre-validation loop. So it iterates through everything to explicitly state the type of structure that it is. Log sanitized data, specific validation, error caching, general exception handling, model name, etc. So it updated the model name to 1.5. Son of a biscuit. That's not what we wanted. We don't want it to be 1.5. It says that it processed markdown. There's no output shown here, but there's a massive file here. I'm assuming that gave us back the information, but disappointed that it changed this. You gotta figure out what the name is. Gemini Flash 2.0. Don't care. I mean, care about the pricing. We know the model name. Okay. Where is it? Gemini Flash. Here it is. Let's do that. I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna say, hey, dude. First, I'm gonna give it the output. This is the output. Here we go. All right. Below is the output that we got back from the previous run. And it's important to know that we should be using Gemini Flash 2.0 instead of 1.5. So make sure we're always using 2.0. And also research online and make sure that we're using the most up-to-date code for the API docs for Gemini. So go off and research that and make sure that this is correct. All right, so I need to do the grounding. I think I talked about this with you previously, but maybe I didn't. Oh, did I not write it? Oh, quit. Hey. Yikes. All right. So below is the terminal output from the previous run that we had. And we need to ensure that we're using Gemini 2.0 instead of 1.5. So I've updated the model in the code, but I don't know if other things need to change. So go ahead and look at the API docs for Gemini to ensure that we're actually using the most up-to-date code for the API with that specific model we're using. Make sure you go online to research this and don't necessarily just use your knowledge base. Okay, so Whisper is now going to input that for me. Cool. All right, so we need to toggle this on here. And the reason we do that is because this toggle refers to Gemini's ability to do grounding, which is searching on Google. And we'll see what happens here. Okay, so it changed it back to 1.5. You mother effer. And the issue here is I would like to use 3.7 from here, but I think the file is too big. And if the file is too big, then I can't use it. Wait, oh, ooh, that fits. All right. Let's eke it again. But we need to copy this over here. Okay. All right, so this is a shot in the dark. So what we're going to do, internet, is we're going to cd back into our file, and we're going to yeek this again. We're then going to hopefully get this flattened structure of our code base, and it's going to be not too big because last time it said it was too big, and I don't think that's right, is it? Oh, it is. Okay, 108. Right. And if I change it to thinking, does that limit it? No, shouldn't. Okay. All right. And then we can copy and paste out the prompt that we sent to Gemini, which is somewhere over here. Okay. Yep, here. Right. And then we're gonna go. I keep going back here because I think it's in cursor. It's not. Go online for Gemini slash 2.0. Fingers crossed. This works. I wonder why it said it was too big last time. So Claude came back, said update the file and requirements. Replace this with the new version of the SDK. Then update this file to use the new SDK. And the rest of your function. Okay. Can you write a series? Let's do this. Okay. Can you write a series of system prompts that I can then pass off to another AI engineer to implement these specific changes that you think would actually help solve our issue? Make sure that they're iterative in nature and big enough for us to make progress, or not, but not too big to overwhelm the AI that's implementing these changes into the code base. Note that they'll have access to the entire code base itself. And then you may ask yourself, why are you using 3.7 when you're using 3.7 here as well, or you are? And the reason being is that Cursor itself has its own system prompt that it's baking into the message that it's sending to Claude before I can actually see it. So this is a cleaner way of me interacting with Claude without it actually having all the additional system prompt that I can't see that Cursor shoves into it before it sends it to their models. Okay, so it gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a lot of prompts to just make this change. All right, internet. After this, we can't fix it. Can't fix it. At least not right now, because this has been a long video and we need to edit the video, which is going to be a pain in the ass. My hope is update the model name. So I don't want to do this one. Don't want. Let's stop. Sorry. Let's just do this. Sorry, I saw it. Sorry, internet. I saw that it wanted me to update it to 001. I don't want to do that. I just want to do Flash because that's what the website showed me. All right. It's interesting that it searched. Oh, I did. Okay, I added web up here. Okay. All right. So it implemented the first one. Is there a pip install recommendation anywhere? Update content generation. There's not. So we're going to do a pip install of new stuff. The reason we're doing this is because there is a new SDK they've added, so we need to make sure that we've updated that. All right, so we're going to do prompt 2. Unless there's something else. Test these changes to ensure everything else next up. Consider updating the error handling. Da, da, da. All right, I'm gonna say you're good. Trust you. Trust you, AI. Okay, so we asked it to update the function here to use the new sync for the new SDK. Configure the API, update generation config parameter, ensure that the temperature and everything else settings are correct. And it made a bunch of changes in here. Let's see. So it's referencing generative AI.types. I think that's incorrect. So I'm actually going to stop, reject all, go back here, actually restore, and then we need to use updated docs for Gemini. The reason I'm doing that is because it looks like the model is not pulling from the internet that updated docs. So it's referring back to what used to be the SDK. And we know that from our previous mess ups that this one is the right one. So hopefully that at web helped. Okay, so update the SDK here, changes needed. So we need to update this, configure this. So set response to this. It updated the response meme type. So update the generation config to use meme type instead of response meme type for JSON output. Put it updated there as well. Okay. So it made a bunch of changes. Would you like me to make any additional? Okay. All right, so we can see our temperature is back to 0.1 again. I think I just saw it. Where'd it go? Here, slightly lower for deterministic. Yeah, we'll set it 0. Um, okay, oh, we're getting some errors. Here we go. Getting some errors here. Uh, all right, so it's saying that we're not getting the import module as we should, and the change they made should have fixed it, and it looked like it did. Good job. All right, so let's, where are we at? Update parsing instructions. Is that what we just did? We need to update the content generation. Okay, so we're on prompt 3. So let's actually go here, do web, paste that in. All right, so it added a lot of code, deleted a lot of code. So it basically added a retry mechanism here. So if the main prompt fails, it then tries this simplified prompt that is less complex than the first one to retry the extraction. But I'm not a big fan of the fact that it removed the JSON schema. That means that it's doing it. I'm gonna reject that. But it's doing it based on the system prompt. We want to try to use the structured output provided by Gemini. So let's just refresh and try this. See what happens. Where is our door stuff? Doors here. This one. All right. So it's not actually acknowledging that again. We have the error back, guys. Oh no. We did all this for not, because we initially fixed that issue. We might have to revert back before Claude started playing with stuff. Okay, so it changed back the meme type to JSON. So I didn't at web, so it might be doing outdated information. Models, okay. All right, so it was a minimal change. It just changed 2 lines. So let's see what this does. Yeah, it's still broken. All right, internet. We might have to end on a low note. Still getting the same error. Check the docs. All right, we're gonna try this one more time. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to peace out because this has been way too long and I gotta do other things now. Okay, so it did a basic change. It just moved these parameters outside of the generation config piece and set them as their own little parameters inside of the response. All right, this is the moment of truth, internet. Do we walk away with a broken app? Looks like we do. Looks like we do. All right, we'll try one more time. I know that this worked last time, right, internet? We just copy and pasted this entire thing out. Fonts, uh, JSON. Does it have the schema though? It removes the schema, doesn't it? Let's say okay. Wait up. You need to use the newer model, Gemini Flash 2.0, not 1.5. Go online and research the API docs to ensure using the right one. As a reminder, here's the error you're getting. All right. Hopefully this works. We'll see. Wait, shoot. Oh, I copied the entire thing out. Whoops. All right, edit this. because I forgot that I copied that code. All right, we need to go back here and copy this. Push enter there. Run the prompt. Okay. Hopefully it goes online. Can you not expand thinking? I don't care about the thinking. I want you to go to the internet. Edit safety settings, maybe? See, like, I don't know where it's getting information from, but it's saying that it doesn't exist. That is a bunch of baloney because we know it exists. We were there. Wonder if we can go to. I don't think they have like a one pager for docs. Do that here? Yeah, they don't. Shame, because when you give it links, it says that it can't go to the internet too. Here are the updated docs. When you send it a link, it gives you a warning. It says, we can't research. We can't go to the internet. Blah, 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 blah. Like, come on, Google. Use your search as you should. Huh, that's silly. All right, it sucks. Well, Gemini sucks for that. Let's say let's not, it doesn't suck yet. Okay. Inside AI is Google Studio. Can we hit? So I want to have Gemini 2 Pro access the internet. Another thing we can do is I've tried this in the past. It was really bad. It didn't work at all, and it was pretty garbage. But we'll try it. So they offer 2.5 Pro here. So I'm going to pass it this and ask it to go to the web, check the error, review the code. And instead of geeking out the code base and putting it into the other thing, okay, so it doesn't have access to the internet. So you have to do a custom implementation through an API to actually have it have access to the internet, which is what Cursor does. Okay. So let's see what it does. Because last time the ability for this new model to implement code into the assistant here is pretty bad. So like here, it gives you this. Tool code is called. And then you have to apply this. And when you apply it, it sometimes isn't accurate and F's things up pretty bad. But we'll try this. And I know that I keep telling you one more time, but as you can see, this is the addiction. You think you're gonna get the lottery machine, or what do we call it? Thing from Vegas, the one-armed bandit. We're pulling the slot machine, trying to get the money out. In this case, we're trying to get code out that works consistently. Okay, so I've applied both of these, and let's see. It's deleted and created a lot of stuff. Let's see what it's done. So first thing it did, updated to the wrong model, as we told it not to. It changed the old one to the old export, which we didn't want. Removed the schema, which we didn't want. We wanted to keep that. Yeah, so it basically reverted back to a bunch of old stuff. So we will, I'm going to accept this and then revert it. I just want to see if this actually works. Okay. And we will drop a file in. It's cache, so it'll parse fast. And it's still broken. All right. So we don't trust you. We're going to restore. How do we, oh no, it's not going to restore. Usually you can restore. But maybe we have to go back to a further checkpoint. Let's go back to here. Okay. And go back here and see if it, yeah, okay, still has this. Cool. All right, well, internet, as you can see, we have not completed what we wanted to complete, but we made progress. Hey, we have an app. You can upload stuff. You can kind of parse it a little bit, and we'll get to the extraction phase soon. So, Internet, I hope you found this enjoyable, exciting, all that stuff. So, if you enjoyed it, please reshare it with your friends. And if you'd like to work with me, I have a consultancy that helps people implement these types of tools internally to automate their processes and increase their productivity. So, if you'd like to book a free call with me for 30 minutes, you can go do the booking link downstairs in the description, and we can have a conversation. So, with that being said, Internet, I'll see you next time.